Alright, here we go with the first episode, which is part one of a five-part story, naturally, called Treasure of the Golden Suns. Don't Give Up the Ship. Our first view of Duckburg is a quaint little sign with two birds on it. Can the birds talk? I don't know. I only ask this because the ducks, dogs, and other animals have no problem with it. Do they have little bird jobs with little money? Moving on. Here's our first glimpse of Duckburg. It's a pretty nice place to live, apart from the terrifying and eerie tower on the hill that must cast a huge shadow over most of the town during the part of the day. Our first view of Scrooge is him wearing an old-timey swimsuit and diving into money. Very symbolic. This is the same way that Orson Welles wanted to introduce Charles Foster Kane in his classic film Top Secret. Here's a cash register watch, because time is money. They're really subtle with jokes on this show. They don't explain them. Show has a bunch of jokes you really have to pay attention to get. This is one of them. Alright, then some lady asks Scrooge for money, tells her to take a hike. Another lady offers him free cheese, and he takes it all. And then he checks a payphone for change, which he gets. This is all to set up how cheap he is and how much people hate him, which they do a good job of doing. Here Donald Duck explains that he's joining the army because he wants to see the world. He's going to leave them, his nephews, with some uncle that they've never met. No mention of a mother or father, but that doesn't really seem to upset the boys because they're just mad that their Uncle Scrooge is really cheap. Scrooge stiffs a cab driver and he gives him cheese, as the cheese he stole as a tip. Donald sails away on the Navy's greatest vessel. The SS doesn't make sense. The one guy on a little boat. Scrooge talks to the boys, takes them home and introduces them to Duckworth, who's his butler. Scrooge is so cold-blooded and condescending he makes a dog take a duck name. It's like that when that white guy in Roots told Kunta his name was Toby. I'm sure this is the same thing. The boys, regardless of the amount of rooms in the mansion, naturally have to sleep in an attic on cots and bear rugs. Donald sends the boys a letter explaining how he was murdered by a jet engine in the Navy. Meanwhile, the Beagle Boys think of busting out of prison to steal some of that sweet duck cash. One of them makes a horrific face that can only be described as nightmare fuel. And then they break out, thanks to a bomb from an old Mexican dog. The dog tells them that they're to steal a boat from Scrooge, since it has a map on it. He's got a raspy voice and he's almost dead. Very scary. The boys warn Scrooge about the attempted break-in, but he just locks them in the tower and insults them. Then the boys build a makeshift hang glider, which they use to fall to their deaths. Back from the dead, the boys are threatened by the Mexican dog with a wine bottle, and then they fly headfirst through a glass ceiling. Having stopped the Beagle Boys, they prove their worth to their uncle. Scrooge hugs them, since he realizes what love is, and he's been stingy the whole time. And then the raspy dog man claims that it's not over and says in Spanish to be continued, and they have a subtitle there for American audiences. Alright, I'm going to bed. That was the first episode. More to come. And as the dog said in Spanish, to be continued.